Ever notice how someone acts completely unpredictable around you, seeking your company one moment, then avoiding you the next, staring intensely before quickly looking away when your eyes meet? Picture yourself at work, watching a colleague constantly find excuses to walk past your desk, yet become suddenly cold and professional when you actually speak to them. Or consider that long-time acquaintance who sends you lengthy personal messages only to vanish completely for days afterward. According to Sigmund Freud, these contradictory behaviors aren't random or meaningless. They conceal profound psychological mechanisms revealing repressed desires and internal conflicts. The unconscious communicates through contradictions, resistance, and what Freud termed compromise formations, behaviors simultaneously expressing desire while denying it. What you're about to uncover will help you decode the most hidden signals of human behavior, so subscribe to the channel if you want to keep exploring the secrets of the human mind. The first signal we'll examine today is so subtle most people never recognize it. Let's start with the most counterintuitive signal. When someone systematically avoids you, they might actually be more attracted than you could imagine. Picture this scenario. You're at a party and notice someone seemingly doing everything possible to avoid being in your vicinity. Whenever you approach a group, they move elsewhere. When you try starting a conversation, they respond politely but distantly, quickly finding an excuse to leave. Your immediate reaction is thinking they dislike you entirely. But Freud would teach us to look deeper. Through his work on resistance, he discovered we often avoid what we most desire precisely because we desire it. This mechanism is called reaction formation. The unconscious produces behavior opposite to real desire, protecting us from anxiety that desire would bring. The person avoiding you might be unconsciously terrified by their attraction's intensity. Perhaps they're in a relationship, afraid of vulnerability, or fear not meeting your expectations. Avoidance becomes a defense strategy. If I don't get close, I won't risk being hurt or complicating my life. Freud noticed patients showed greatest resistance when approaching the most important content to process. The same happens in relationships. Greater attraction can mean greater resistance to showing it. How do you recognize this pattern? The person doesn't completely ignore you. They actively avoid you. There's a different quality to this avoidance. It's intentional, consistent, almost studied. Additionally, you might notice when they think they're unobserved, their gaze lingers on you longer than normal. Another clue is body tension. When suddenly finding you nearby, their body slightly stiffens, as if fighting against natural impulse. Freud would say they're battling the ED's drive toward pleasure, while the superego imposes control. Have you ever seen this pattern in yourself? Have you ever avoided someone precisely because they attracted you too much? In our next chapter, we'll discover how the unconscious uses another even subtler strategy, transforming attraction into apparent aggression. The second signal is even more deceptive. When someone always seems ready to argue with you, they might be unconsciously attracted to your presence. Imagine having a colleague who seems to seek confrontation with you on every topic. During meetings, they contest your proposals even when reasonable. In work WhatsApp groups, they always respond to your messages with objections or clarifications. When you express an opinion, they immediately present the opposite viewpoint. Superficially, it seems like dislike, but there's something different about this dynamic. Freud had identified this mechanism in his theory of ambivalence. The unconscious, unable to directly express attraction impulses, transforms them into their opposite, aggression. This is what psychoanalysis calls displacement. Emotional energy gets diverted from the original object, attraction, toward more socially acceptable behavior, debate, intellectual confrontation. This person needs to interact with you, but cannot allow themselves to do so in an openly affectionate way. Verbal aggression becomes the perfect compromise. They can have your attention, establish intense emotional contact, feel energy arising from confrontation, all while maintaining a facade of detachment or even dislike. Conflict therefore becomes a socially acceptable form of intimacy. Freud observed that heated discussions often contain masked erotic charge. Tension, intense eye contact, physical closeness created during confrontation all reproduce, in sublimated form, attraction dynamics. How do you distinguish mask aggression from real dislike? First, consistency. This person actively seeks opportunities to confront you, doesn't avoid conflict. Second, emotional intensity. There's particular charge in their interventions, involvement going beyond simple rational disagreement. Third crucial clue, their aggression is selective. With others, they might be perfectly cordial, but with you, they seem always in battle mode. And D, this suggests you represent something special in their unconscious world. Often that something special is attraction they cannot or will not admit. Freud would say this person is sublimating libidinal energy into aggressive energy, thus maintaining contact with the desire object while denying the true nature of this impulse to themselves. Have you ever noticed behaving provocatively with someone who actually attracted you? In our next chapter, we'll explore an even subtler signal, when the unconscious betrays itself through small, involuntary gestures. The third signal is what Freud considered most revealing. Small, involuntary gestures that betray true feelings, even when the person believes they're hiding them perfectly. Imagine being in group conversation. There's someone who verbally maintains neutral attitude toward you, but their body tells a completely different story. When you speak, their feet orient in your direction, even though their torso faces elsewhere. When you laugh, you see a micro smile appear at their mouth corners, though they immediately regain composure afterward. Their hands fidget with objects when you're near, or they unconsciously run fingers through their hair. Freud called these phenomena parapraxis, moments when the unconscious overcomes conscious defenses and manifests directly. In his studies of slips and involuntary gestures, he discovered the body often reveals what the mind would hide. Attraction creates particular nervous system excitement. Even when someone consciously decides not to show interest, their body continues reacting to your presence. Heart rate slightly accelerates, breathing changes, muscles tense in particular configuration. Freud associated with repressed libidinal energy. Observe their eyes when they think they're unseen. The unconscious cannot lie through gaze. You might catch moments when they look at you with particular intensity, or moments when their gaze lingers longer than socially appropriate. When caught, their reaction is disproportionate. They blush, look away with abrupt movement, or make some comment to justify what was actually unconscious contemplation. Another unconscious betrayal is involuntary synchronization. Freud had noticed that when attracted to someone, we unconsciously tend to imitate their movements, posture, even breathing rhythm. If you notice this person involuntarily mirrors your gestures, touches their face when you do, drinks when you drink, changes position shortly after you do, their unconscious is trying to create connection that consciousness denies. Voice is another precious indicator. When addressing you, tone might become slightly softer or contrarily more controlled than normal. Both are signs of particular emotional attention they cannot completely hide. Freud maintained the unconscious has its own wisdom and always seeks expression, even when conscious personality prevents it. These small gestures are coded messages revealing true nature of feelings. Have you ever noticed your involuntary gestures when near someone who attracts you? In our next chapter, we'll discover how the unconscious uses words to say the opposite of what it intends to communicate. The fourth signal involves words. When someone denies too energetically being interested in you, they're often revealing exactly the opposite. Imagine this scene. You're talking with a group of friends, and someone jokes that you and a certain person would make a nice couple. That person's reaction is immediate and disproportionate. What are you saying? Absolutely not. We couldn't be more different. They're the last person I could ever imagine being with. The vehemence of denial, number of supporting arguments, emotional energy invested in protest. According to Freud, all this is highly significant. Freud had discovered the unconscious functions paradoxically. The more intensely we deny something, the more often that denial reveals hidden truth. This happens because psychic energy needed to repress an impulse is proportional to the impulse's strength. If there really were no attraction, all that energy wouldn't be needed to deny it. The phenomenon manifests in subtle ways. The person might make apparently casual comments about how incompatible you are or how you're not their type, even when nobody asked. It's as if their unconscious needs to continuously convince themselves and others of something that, if truly real, wouldn't need repeating. Another revealing pattern is using superlatives in denials. Never, ever, not even if they were the last person on earth. It's completely out of the question. Freud observed this extreme language often masks ambivalence and internal conflict. Excessive protest becomes symptom of interior struggle between desire and resistance. Also pay attention to moments when they spontaneously mention how much they dislike you or how different you are. If they truly felt nothing, why would your name appear so often in their discourse, even negatively? Freud would say the unconscious still seeks to speak about the desire object, and if it cannot do so positively, it does so negatively. There's also projective protection phenomenon. They might attribute feelings they actually have to you. He always thinks he's attractive to everyone, or she thinks she's irresistible. These statements often reveal more about the speaker's feelings than situational reality. Freud had identified this dynamic in his patients. Often content denied most vehemently emerged as central during analysis. Compulsive denial is often involuntary confession. Body language accompanies these verbal denials with contradictory signals. While saying they don't like you at all, they might blush, smile involuntarily, or show agitation signs contradicting their words. Have you ever protested too energetically against something that actually attracted you? In our next chapter, we'll explore how the unconscious seeks attention through behaviors apparently opposite to desire. The fifth signal is perhaps most complex to decipher. When someone seeks your attention through behaviors that seem designed to push you away. Imagine this dynamic. A person starts openly flirting with others in your presence, tells detailed stories about their romantic conquests when you're around, or even brings dates to events where they know you'll be. Superficially, it seems like wanting to demonstrate how little they care about you, but Freud would invite us to look at the underlying pattern. Why do they need you to see all this? This behavior reveals what psychoanalysis calls narcissistic libido, the need to be seen and desired by our interest object, even when we cannot or will not admit being interested. It's a form of attention-seeking disguised as indifference. The person might also adopt competitive strategies toward you. If you mention professional success, they must tell about bigger success. If you talk about a hobby, they suddenly discover expertise in that same field. If you express opinion, they must demonstrate knowing the topic better than you. Freud would identify in this behavior a form of projective identification. They want to be seen by you as worthy, competent, attractive, but cannot say so directly. Another aspect of this signal is calculated provocation. They might make controversial statements on topics they know are important to you, not from true conviction, but to trigger reaction. They want to see you emotionally involved, want your energy, your passion, even if manifested through disagreement. For the unconscious, negative attention is always better than indifference. Freud observed we often perform elaborate scenes to win attention from our desire object, especially when that desire is conflicted. Flirting with others, competition, provocation become ways of saying, "Look at me. Notice how desirable, intelligent, interesting I am," without having to directly admit, "I like you and want you to notice me." There's also the rescue pattern. They create situations where they might need your help, or deliberately put themselves in disadvantageous positions when you're present, unconsciously hoping you'll intervene. It's a primitive form of contact seeking that bypasses rational defenses. Masked jealousy is another powerful indicator. They might make apparently casual comments about other people you spend time with. "I saw you've been spending lots of time with Julia lately," said in tone wanting to seem neutral but betraying particular attention to your movements. Freud would say all these behaviors reveal unconscious fantasy. If I can provoke emotional reaction, it means I'm not indifferent to them. The energy invested in these elaborate strategies is disproportionate to what should be normal indifference. Have you ever enacted elaborate strategies to attract someone's attention while pretending not to be interested? In our final chapter, we'll discover the most subtle signal, when the unconscious creates coincidences to be near the desire object. The last signal is most fascinating from Freudian perspective, when someone starts appearing casually in your life with statistically improbable frequency. Imagine this scenario. Suddenly that person starts attending your gym, even though there are at least 10 closer to their home. You discover they've enrolled in your same language course or started shopping at your supermarket. They participate in events they'd never shown interest in before, but know are important to you. When you point out these coincidences, they respond with surprise. "How strange, I hadn't thought about that." Freud would have recognized in this pattern what he called psychic determinism, the idea that apparently no behavior is truly random, but all our acts are guided by unconscious motivations. The unconscious is extraordinarily skilled at creating contact opportunities that seem accidental, thus protecting the ego from conscious rejection risk. This phenomenon also manifests in subtler forms. You might notice their messages always arrive at most opportune moments, when you've just posted something on social media, when you've had a difficult day, or when you've shared some important update. The timing isn't random. The unconscious constantly monitors the desire object and seizes every occasion to establish contact. The unconscious is also masterful at creating emergencies or needs requiring your presence. Suddenly, they have computer problems, and you're the only person they know who understands them. They need advice on a topic that happens to be your specialty. They must go somewhere near your home, and while they're there, stop by to say hello. Freud observed the unconscious is much more intelligent and strategic than conscious mind. While the person might sincerely believe these encounters are random, their unconscious has carefully orchestrated every situation to maximize contact possibilities while maintaining plausible deniability. A particular aspect of this signal is casual preparation. When meeting you by chance, they're always particularly well-groomed, always have time to stop and chat, always seem in the right mood to socialize. If these were truly random encounters, statistically sometimes they should be rushed, or not at their best, or simply unavailable. There's also selective memory phenomenon. They perfectly remember details you mentioned in previous conversations, information about your tastes, your plans, your friends. This particular attention to your life details reveals emotional investment going well beyond platonic interest. Freud would say the unconscious doesn't know the concept of coincidence when it comes to desire. Every chance is actually the result of deep psychic drive, seeking to realize what consciousness doesn't dare admit. The most fascinating aspect is these people are often first to be surprised by coincidences. Their unconscious works so effectively, they don't even realize what they're doing. Have you ever noticed finding yourself casually always in the same places as someone who attracted you? Freud taught us the unconscious is much more honest than conscious mind. While words lie, behaviors reveal. While reason denies, the body confesses. While the ego protects, the id manifests. The final question I leave you with is this. Now that you know these signals, what will you do when you recognize them in your life? Will you use them to better understand others or to better understand yourself? If this journey into Freudian psychology has struck you, comment by writing your city. I want to know where the people most attentive to secrets of the human mind come from. Hit like if these signals made you rethink some situation in your life, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring mysteries of human behavior. Share this video with someone who might need to decipher hidden signals in their own life. Sometimes awareness is the first step toward more authentic and satisfying relationships. Thank you for sharing this journey into the unconscious with me. This channel's community is made of courageous people, unafraid to look beyond appearances to understand true human nature. Keep exploring, keep growing, keep discovering the secrets the mind hides. See you in the next video, where we'll explore other uncharted territories of relationship psychology.